Yeah, so hello everyone. So in this session, we are going to see the Ansible overview and the demo, so how we can create the resources using Ansible in Azure. Okay, so in the last session, right? So we have seen the demo of Terraform, and using the Terraform, we have deployed the Azure resources, and similar kind with the Ansible tool also we can deploy it. Okay, so maybe I will try to summarize the previous sessions. So for example, right, maybe the Ansible, Terraform, and Chef, Puppet, ARM template. So all of the things, right? So this is coming under the infrastructure automation code. So which is like infrastructure as code, and so under that we are going to see the Ansible tool. So this one also the maybe the very popular one in the industry right now. Okay, so with compared to the Chef and Puppet and all, right, so they are having some limitations, like we need to have the agent to automate the infrastructure, for example in between the client and server. So for example, if you are using the Chef or Puppet, for example you are doing some installation on maybe the Windows VM or Linux VM, so you will be having one master server, and from that master server you will be managing 1000 or 2000 node under this one master server. Okay, so in this scenario, right, so for example you are having a one master node, and you are having maybe the 1000 or 2000 child node. Okay, so maybe if you are using the Chef and Puppet, the one of the important thing is like in your master node you need to have the server needs to be installed, and in your client, sorry, in your node, right, the child node, so you need to have the uh, uh, you need to have the agent. So for example, if it is the Puppet, you need to install the Puppet agent. If it is the Chef, you need to install the Chef agent. Okay, so which means like our first criteria to use the Chef and Puppet is like we need to have the agent machine. Okay, so for example, if I am writing some code and I am just pushing it to Chef server, and then, right, so and then all the child nodes, right, so it will actively looking on the changes. So if there is anything, it will just pull the code, and then it will apply the changes in the corresponding the child node. So this is how it will work. Okay, but maybe with compared to this one, right, so how the Ansible is doing it, like you will be having the Ansible server installed in your machine, and underlying that there will be many agent, sorry, there will be many child nodes, it will be connected to it. And so if you are pushing some module, right, so what it, if when we are running some kind of module or the template, what it will do is like the Ansible server, it will copy the particular corresponding code to the server through SSH, and it will run on behalf of the particular user. Okay, so there we don't need any kind of the agent installation or nothing basically. Okay, so if you are using the Linux machine, it will just try to connect with SSH, and yeah, it will just try to connect with SSH, and so it will copy the corresponding code, and then it will just start executing it. And once the execution is done, right, so it will remove the temporary code. Okay, maybe if it is the for example Windows machine. Okay, for example if it is the Windows machine, means it will just try to connect through the PowerShell, and then it will copy the modules, and then it will run. So for example, the sample thing, right, so for example I have a one Windows server machine, and for example, yeah, maybe it's not like one Windows server machine. For example, I am having the group of machine where we are deploying the .NET application. Okay, so in all the machine, right, I want to install maybe the IAS I needs to be installed, or some other software I need to be updated. So in those scenario, what I will do is like I will just create the template, and then when I'm just running the template, it will just connect with all the the Windows server parallelly, and then it will apply the whatever we have mentioned right in the YAML file something. It will install it, and once that is completed, and then it will remove the some of the file it needs to copy, right? So those temporary files and all, it will be deleted, and finally the execution will be completed. Okay. So with that saying, like the Ansible, right, it is not just alone, like for example infrastructure provisioning. So it will do for the configuration management and then the deployment also. For example, the infrastructure provisioning means we can create the maybe the Azure, AWS, and all the cloud resources are there, right? So there it will maybe whatever we are mentioned in the ARM templates and Terraform, right? The similar way here also we can create all the infrastructure resources, but just the syntax and the flow only it will vary. Like there we will be calling it like just a playbook and task something, but here they are naming it like module, and under that we will be having the roles, variables, and tasks something, so that we will see it in the next session, next slide. But just as I'm saying, like, so it can do the infrastructure provisioning. Okay. And then the configuration management, so which means like maybe enabling the particular enabling the particular inbound outbound port, or maybe installing something inside the VM. And so this all will be comes under the configuration management. Okay. But for the Terraform, right, the Terraform, it won't do the configuration management. For example, with the Terraform, you can just create the VM, but inside the VM we cannot install any of the software, or maybe inside the VM we cannot do anything. Okay. But from that Ansible, yeah, you can, after the installing the maybe after creating the resource, maybe whatever the maybe the configuration something you can do, so that you can easily done by Ansible. Okay. And then the deployment also, like maybe the copying the war file or jar file to the Tomcat server, or maybe it can be any kind of deployment. So all of the things we can easily done by Ansible. So with that Ansible, right, even we don't need any kind of Jenkins or Bamboo or anything. So with the Ansible, but this is maybe we have to architecture the application like that. So maybe, right, so even I am seeing some of the application, like even they won't use any kind of the Terraform, or maybe any other tool. With the Ansible itself, they will do all the infrastructure, and then they will create a infrastructure configuration management, and then the all the integration also. It's not only like maybe the deployment, those things, like maybe for example you will be having some Datadog or any other monitoring tool. So that one also you can be integrate with your maybe the chatting medium, like the Slack or Teams channel, and then once that event or particular thing is occurred, then it will push the event maybe notification to us. So with that Ansible, right, so basically we can do almost everything, so for the infrastructure management. Okay. So and then the next thing is like agentless. So this is push script based. Okay. So which means like maybe when you are running the Ansible playbook, so it will be push the particular module or the code, the unit of code, to the child machine, and then it will so once the code is pushed there, and then it will run the script. Okay. So that is why we are calling it like push script, and then for this operation we don't need agentless. So this is the one of the main advantage of using Ansible, because in Chef or Puppet and all, we need to have the agent first, and after that only so yeah, so for the Chef and Puppet, we need to have the agent, so that will be work in the sense of like a pull script based. Okay. So for example, the maybe the client, right, it will actively looking for if there is any changes they are making it. So once if there is any changes detected, and then it will pull the changes, and then it will apply it. Okay. But here whenever we need some changes, we will be just running the particular command, and then it will be applied to the particular server, and then our installation, everything, it will be completed. Okay. And then it is written in the YAML file. So maybe even the Terraform written in HashiCorp style, and and also like ARM templates we have seen, right? The parameters and then the template dot. So there they will be using the JSON template. Okay, but here the Ansible they are purely using the YAML format. Okay, and here there are two things like control mission and then managed nodes. The control mission means the Ansible server. So where the Ansible the server is installed. Okay, so maybe this is the master mission. Okay, and the manager node means so all the nodes under managed by the control mission. Okay, so for example you are having a one master mission, and under that master mission you are managing all the infrastructure maybe under your organization. Okay, so and also like, so for example manager nodes, it can be many group like the dev maybe the virtual machine or the production virtual machine or the database server, or maybe it could be anything, right? So maybe the Unix server. Okay, so that they will be having many kind of the classification, and when you are running the particular Ansible, right, you will be specifying the group also. So for example, if it is the Windows machine group, I will just say like yeah, this is the security patch you have to update, install it. Okay, and maybe if it is the Linux machine, maybe some other the wget or some the insta updating the packages, it is the another form, right? Maybe we have to use another flow. Okay, and also maybe the database server means, so for example if you are migrating so for example if there is any security patch related to maybe the database or something, right? So it has to applied at the database level only. Okay, sorry, database server maybe and so those and all we will be doing the managed nodes. Okay, so for example, right, in your organization also, maybe when you are deploying any kind of software, right, you won't be having a full access. Maybe that is depends on the organization maturity. But in my previous organization and all, right, so how they will do it, like they will be having some client tool installed in my machine, like something like software center or something. And if I when I am raising the ticket, and then the some of the IT support team, they will push the some of the application to me, and then I will install. But this is the one kind of workflow. But the Ansible and Chef and all, so this is something different one. Okay, and for example as I said already, for example the control machine is master node, where our all the Ansible everything is Ansible server is deployed, and then the managed nodes under that maybe the control machine, it will manage all the managed nodes. Okay, so already said like this is the agentless. Okay, to install any kind of things, we don't need any client or something needs to be installed in the managed nodes, which means like child node. Okay, so we don't need any kind of maybe the client or agent, anything, we don't need anything. Okay, so that is what. So for the control machine requirement alone, like we need to install the Python and Ansible, and also it will be working in the Linux environment alone. So we can't it won't be, we cannot set up the Ansible server in the Windows machine. Okay, so for currently they are just allowing the Linux machine only. For the Linux only they are allowing it. Okay, so basically for the control machine, you need to have the Python, and after that you have to install the Ansible installation. That's it. Okay, and then the managed nodes, you don't need anything like you don't need to install any kind of like client or agent, you don't need to install anything. Okay, and then the next thing, right, so for example so which protocol it will use. Okay, so for example maybe if you are using the Linux and all, maybe we know like SSH, so this is the secure shell protocol. So this will be happening in the port 22. Okay, so for example the your Ansible control machine is like Linux server. Okay, and then you are just going to update something in another some Linux server. Okay, in this case what it will do is like it will just initiate the connection with the SSH protocol, and sometimes, right, they will be using the SCP also. This is something like single sorry, simple copy file. Okay, something. Okay, so they will be just copying the file, and after that it will start executing it. Okay, and if it is in the power Windows node, it will just try to connect with the PowerShell. Okay, and Yeah, so the only one thing is like for example the Ansible server we can be configured in the Linux environment alone, and then for this requirement is like Python, the 2 dot something or the 3 dot version needs to be installed, and then the Ansible server needs to be installed. Okay, and then the one of the main advantage of using the Ansible like the YAML, so I think we can easily understand it by just seeing another XML or JSON, right? With compared to that one, the YAML is the very convenient one, and also this is the agentless. Like you don't, you just need to. Uh, you just need to configure the Ansible server, and after that the child nodes and all, it's not, we don't need any kind of the client or something. Okay, and then you may have a one more query also. For example, for each and every Linux server, right? So for example, under the managed nodes, the maybe the login credentials would be vary. Okay, so here what we will be doing it like we will be mentioning the inventory file. Okay, under the inventory file we will be specifying like this is the Linux machine A, and the target protocol we are going to use is like SSH, and then the username and password. So we will be mentioning the username and password, and when we are running the particular command, and then it will try to get the uh, password, username and password, and then it will authenticate it to the particular server, and then it will run the script. Okay, so for example, if it is the 200 or 2000 machine, right, you don't need to log in every time. You can just run the particular command in your Ansible, the control machine, and then you can just select the particular group or individual machine or the local host, whatever the target, you can just apply it, and then it will just install the installation for us. Okay, so the setup may be the very easiest one. Okay, so any queries, team? Amos? Maybe yeah. This also it looks like the Terraform and like ARM templates only. It's nothing different. But apart from that, it is doing the configuration management, deployment, everything it will do.
Yeah, hi Salon. Yeah, good.
Yeah, yeah,
I came little late, sorry, but let me go through the rest of the slides and then if
yeah.
I
This is the first
forgot
slide.
some.
Yeah, this is the first slide, Amos. Okay, it's nothing different
Okay.
because the last time, right, we have seen the
Mhm.
Terraform demo, but the next one is the Ansible overview. But we didn't see the last time, so that's why we are just seeing now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this
Good.
is the first thing, first slide, like maybe the Terraform and ARM templates, right? It will just do the
Mhm.
cloud infra creation only, the resource creation. Okay, but it won't do like the configuration management and the deployment and all, it won't do. Okay, but additionally the Ansible, right, it will do all of the things. Okay, so
Okay.
everything
So
is,
this
yeah,
more like the other one only, like
yeah.
creating the.
Yeah, exactly. So this also just like the infra automation tool, right? So all the tools like maybe the only the schema, right? Maybe however we are specifying our maybe the expectation like this maybe resource groups to be created, vnet. So what are all the parameters we will be passing it, right? So only the structure it will be changed like the JSON, but here it is the YAML. But if it is a chef and puppet, they will be using some other format or the groovy format. There are many things, right? So only the format or the like the toolings or the software only will be different, but all of their end goal is the same. Like they want to, uh, so all the infrastructure we need to be coded or the scripted, and we need to be added into the Git repository. And whenever we are running it, so the same whatever we get here, the same setup needs to be created. Okay, so the concept everything is same only, almost.
Okay.
But I think apart the one, but maybe the Ansible and all, right? This is the latest one, like the Docker or Kubernetes. So this is the latest one, like the Terraform and Ansible, right? So maybe currently this is the widely used tools in the market actually. Okay. So then,
Like Python and Ansible installation in Linux environment.
yeah, so for example, right, I said like so here, maybe the Terraform, right? The Terraform means they don't have any kind of the server and child kind of a relationship. Okay, you will be having so the Terraform script, and when you are running the Terraform, you need plan something in your machine, right? It will just create the resource in the Azure or AWS or GCP. Okay, but here, right, it will do the configuration management deployment also. So in this scenario, you need to connect to the particular machine, right? So then only you can do the installation, configuration, management, everything. So maybe in your organization, right, you will be having a one, maybe they will have a one master, maybe the server, and under that they will be connected with the all the child nodes. Okay, so in this scenario, the control machine and managed nodes.
Okay.
So since it is the agentless, we don't need to install anything in the managed nodes. They don't have any expectation like maybe the SS, maybe the Python needs to be installed, or the client needs to be installed, or agent something. We don't need anything. Okay, but the only the requirement, right? So you need to allow the port or the communication from your the master node and then your child node. So that is the only one expectation. But even if it is not happened, then we cannot do that. But the only the thing is like maybe they need to enable the SSH port, and then they need to allow the traffic from your master node to your child node. But that is the basic requirement, maybe to set up the maybe the Ansible thing.
So high level, when speaking about the DevOps and the Azure or any other cloud platform, right? So that's what we are going to do from DevOps, like creating the infrastructure and everything on one of the cloud platform. In
Uh,
our case, like we are talking about the Azure, right?
yeah, so for example, it is not only like cloud. So sometimes, right, we will do for the on premise also. Okay, so in
Okay.
on premise, we won't create the resource, maybe the automatically, but the configuration management and the deployment, right? So that we will be doing from the automated manner. So for example,
Okay.
in your maybe the company, right? So you will be having maybe for all the developers, you are having the maybe the VDI virtual machine. Okay, maybe you are maybe the .NET Core or maybe Java developer. Okay, so similar like you, there will be the maybe the 100 Java developers will be there. Okay, so if there is any the software requirement means like the IT team, right? So by just installing some command, so in the all the 100 machine, so they need to install all the record software. Like if it is the Java, like Java developer, they need to install like Eclipse and JDK and whatever the dependencies. Okay, but they don't want to install manually, right? It's not the good way. So they can just maintain on maybe the Ansible server, and maybe in all your the developer machine, right? By just clicking, maybe by just running the playbook, they have to create the basic the local setup. But mostly we will be doing it. But just for an example, I'm saying. So in those scenario, this is like on premise only, right? Maybe they can be hosted something in the VMware. So they will be having the on premise cloud also. Maybe on-premise server also they will be having it.
Okay. So from the Ansible server, that's what it is going to do the push script
Yeah, yeah, push
for
script
all the
like,
100 developers.
yeah. So it will do for the infrastructure provisioning for the cloud, right? Like
Mhm.
AWS, Azure, GCP, everything. Okay. The configuration management, I said, right? Maybe for example, the developer, the local setup, or maybe in your deployment server also, right? Maybe you need to install the IAS. Okay, maybe if they are deploying in the Tomcat server or the IAS server, so they need to do some kind of the configuration, right? So that will be comes under the configuration management. So this also applies to both the on-premise and as well as the cloud. Okay, uh, maybe the deployment server can be in your within your network, maybe it's in the on-premise, or it can be from the cloud also, like virtual machine.
Okay.
Okay, And then the deployment, maybe the deployment can be like IaaS or the PaaS or the maybe the function as a service. Okay, maybe if it is the deployment for the maybe the infrastructure service, right? Maybe you have to copy the some kind of the maybe the binaries to the IaaS, that particular folder. Okay, so that is for the deployment for the Tomcat or IaaS server. Okay, if it is the Azure PaaS service, right? Maybe we have seen like Azure App Service. Okay, so we don't have any kind of maybe the path to be deployed, but they will be just providing some FTP path or something. So there we have to provide our maybe the binaries, our release binary. Okay, that is what the deployment means. Like maybe the
Mhm.
deployment, right? It's not only for the Azure App Service. For example, the Kubernetes or the maybe the service mesh, and even within the Azure also there are many kind of the deployment platform there, right? So it will do all the thing, like it will support the Azure App Service, and also it will support the IaaS server deployment, and then the Kubernetes deployment. So all the deployment, so they will be having the module. You just need to provide the corresponding parameter. That's it. But when you are using
Yeah.
the maybe the Azure DevOps, right? You will be having more and more future, like maybe the trigger and then the approval workflow. So many things you will be getting it. But from the Ansible, maybe the script you can automate it. But anyway, you have to call from the Azure DevOps. So because there only we can set up some kind of the trigger and all, right? So when the code is pushed, maybe you can just run the particular script, or maybe when the QA environment is completed, you have to we have to wait for the maybe the manager approval for the next UAT deployment. So those kind of additional feature we can leverage from the Azure DevOps. But from the automation perspective, right, when you are running the particular command, it will do the deployment. Okay, but when
Mhm.
it is called, how it is called, those and all will be configured from the CI tool, like Azure DevOps, Jenkins, or any other the CI tool actually.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing, okay, the components. Okay, so what are all the components are here? Okay, so for example, the control machine, so this is the master one, master machine. So there only we will be installing the Python and the Ansible installation. Okay, and so mostly till now, right? So from the Linux server only they are allowing it. So they are not supporting the Windows machine as the Ansible server yet. Okay, and the manager nodes, so whatever the child nodes associated with the control machine, right? So that one we are calling it like managed nodes. Yeah, it can be anything like Mac, or maybe the Windows or the Linux machine. Okay, if it is the Windows machine, like it will just try to connect through PowerShell, and if it is the Linux machine, means the popular the protocol is the SSH, so through that it will connect. Okay, so this is the playbook, so that is written in the YAML format. And so there you will be mentioning what is the playbook name, and what are all the host we need to for example, yeah, there we need to specify the deployment, the group, right? The management group or something like for this group, so in which, what is the target of the managed group or the child node. So those things, and also like the sequence of task also we will be mentioning it. Okay, like first you can create the resource. Maybe let's take an example of the Azure VM. Okay, I just want to create the Azure VM. So similar, like, right? So first I need to create the resource group, and then the virtual network, and then the storage, and then the public IP. So all, and then finally like the subnet, VNet, and then the virtual network. So the series of the task, right? So those things we can configure in the playbooks. So this is the main file actually. Okay, so from we will be just running this file, and then maybe in the ARM templates, right, we will be having the playbooks, and like another one called uh, parameters, right? But similar like the playbooks, and under that, like we will be having many things like variables, the roles. Okay, and then inventory. So there are many files are there. Okay, so and then modules like the reusable script. Okay, so for example, in maybe if I am just run maybe doing the deployment for the Azure, right? So we there some modules for maybe creating the Azure resource group, or and then the vnet virtual machine for all the things, right? So that we have the modules, we are just going to use the particular module in our playbook. Okay, so if you are not leveraging the particular module, so we have to do own scripting. Okay, but that will be a very complex, right? So so that we are just we will be leveraging the modules. So even similar like other maybe the tools, right? We will be having the maybe the gallery something, so inside that you can just search whatever the module you need, and then there we can find the documentation also. So for example, right, if you want to search maybe the Slack. Okay, for example, when the particular event is occurred, you want to trigger a one message to the Slack channel. Okay, and so you have to use the Slack module. Okay, maybe the Slack, right? So they will be providing many actions, like maybe we can just create the for example, we may want to create the channel, or you want to add some specific number in your team, or maybe you can post the message in the group. So there are many things, right? So for each and everything they will be having some particular task in the module, so that one we are going to use it. So similar like, right? So for all the infrastructure related for the IaaS or the Kubernetes, so for all the things, so the third party modules are there. So this is the open source, right? So the third party module, so we can use that. Okay, and then the inventory file, so this will be created with the extension of .ini. Okay, so here only we will be mentioning the all the manager node information. Okay, so for example, when I'm just running it, right, so we need to know what are the server name, what is the password, and how we have to call, like how we have to connect, like SSH or the maybe the Windows PowerShell or something. So all the information we will be mentioning in the inventory file. Okay, so the inventory file, for example, here you can have a tag like this is the dev environment, or this is the production environment, something, so that maybe when you're just running the Ansible playbook, we can just apply the particular thing in the particular machine alone. Okay, the particular group of the dev machine alone, it won't be go to the QA or any other infrastructure. Okay, and then the roles, so the roles here it is like again, so for example, if you are having the custom the task or something, right, so you can create as the roles, maybe the variables, everything. Okay, so when you are running the playbooks, so before that the particular roles, everything will, it will be called in the playbooks. So this is also like maybe the modules, maybe the user created modules, like so we will be, so for example, right, if you are having any business logic based on your project, so at the time we cannot rely on the modules and all, right? So at the time you can just create the roles, and then you can just call the roles in your playbooks, the particular file. Okay, so this is the components, so if you have any query, you can ask me now.
No, sir. Good.
Okay, yeah. So the next one, right, so the playbook structure. Okay, so for example, I already said, right, so this is this will follow the YAML structure. Okay, so here they are the hyphen. So almost, you work with YAML, or this is new? Maybe I think in our earlier also we have
Yeah,
seen.
only on the previous demo wherever we did, that's what like I am exposed to.
Okay, okay.
Other than that, I don't have any knowledge.
Yeah, I think we don't need any kind of knowledge, Amos. Okay, maybe for even when I'm started newly, right, I thought like it's a very very big thing, but it's a small thing only. Okay, for example, maybe in the JSON, right, so maybe there we will mention the key value, and then the array collection and all we will be mentioning, right? So for example, if it is the key value, we will be just specifying with the colon, maybe in the JSON, right? So the key, this is the value. Okay, maybe this is kind of the dictionary something. Okay, and if it is something like array, right, what it will do is like maybe within the square bracket we will be mentioning in the uh, JSON. Okay, but here what they are doing it like, for example, this is the hyphen, they are just starting it, and this is the name, the key value pair. Maybe this is their maybe the expectation also. So for example, just I am providing the name of the playbook, like the creating the Azure VM. Okay, and then the host, right? So for example, this is the Azure one. Okay, for example, to create the infrastructure, we don't need any kind of the managed the child nodes to be specified. Okay, so for example, this can be run in our same our machine itself, so that it's nothing. So when we are running the particular script in our machine, so here itself it will create the resources in the Azure environment. Okay, and then the connection local, and then the variable, right? So under the play, maybe in the under the playbook, right? So if you are using the variable and all, so here we are just specifying in the top itself, so that it will be very easy to understand. Maybe um, so for example, right, the same resource group you want to be used in the multiple task. Okay, but here it is just like only one task, like we need to create the resource group, and then here yeah, they are specifying it. Okay, so for example, if you want to create the vnet or the maybe the storage disk or the Kubernetes cluster, right? So you cannot hard code the resource group in all the places, so that's why they are just making it as the global one here, and then they will be just calling wherever the resource group is required. Okay, and here the right, so the name is like the key value, and here it is like variables, like here also there can be many variables. Here we have to mention the key value pair, but the task, right, the task actually like the collection, it will expect the number of elements, so it can be one or more elements, right? So for example, this is the first task, like that's why the hyphen, and after that here we have to specify some space also, and then the name, and maybe this is our custom name only, and this is the Azure RM resource group, right? So this is the one, it will be coming from the module. Okay, the particular module, the Azure RM resource group, it will expect the two parameters. Even when we are creating the resource group in our portal also, right, it will expect the two mandatory parameters, like the name and location. Like the name is like yeah, this is the resource group name, like Ansible RG5, and then location where needs to be created, like West US. Okay, and similar, like for example, you are having the sequence of many tasks. Okay, so which means like again hyphen and then name colon and then create VM. So something, there are many things we will be uh, yeah, so but anyway, right, the hyphen and then the name, so everything it should be in the same order. So otherwise, right, the YAML file, it will be it won't be valid, so it will throw some error. So that is why, so here the important thing is the indentation also, it is the very very important thing. Even if you, for example, the connection and then variables, it will be in the parallel to each other. If even if you are providing extra space, so the YAML file it will be the invalid, so that maybe the machine, right, the system can't read the YAML the file, the definition basically. Okay, so Amos, you are good with that, right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, so the next thing, right, so we will be just seeing the demo. So for example, as I said earlier, right, for example, the Ansible server, we can be configured uh, in our Linux machine alone. Okay, but even my OS also Windows one. Okay, so in those scenario, what you can do is like, for example, in a real time application, right, maybe in your company they will be setting up some kind of the Linux machine, there you will run all the operation. Okay, and maybe in another case, right, what we can use like the cloud shell. Okay, so within the Azure also, right, within the Azure they are having the cloud shell, right? So there we can run any kind of maybe the Linux, maybe. So the cloud shell also, it is created from the Linux container only, right? So all the Linux or the server, everything you can run from the cloud shell itself. Okay, but so inside the shell also by default they will be installing maybe the popular the utilities like the Git, Python, Terraform, ARM templates, Azure CLI, the all the popular thing they will be installing it. Okay, so for example even so here, right, so this is the icon to open the cloud shell, and I'm just clicking on that one. So currently this is opening, so this is under the bash. Okay, so and also almost one more thing is like maybe here we are having the Azure Pass sponsorship, right? So just yesterday I got a mail like maybe so this is only for the 1 month, 1 month, and also like the $100 credits only. Okay, maybe if you are maybe this is expired around I think 8th December for me. Maybe for you, you can just check with that. So for example, right, in the subscription you can just go to like for the billing information they are saying like Microsoft Azure sponsorship.com, and here they will be mentioning the here like the check your balance. Yeah, here it is saying like the used one is the 33 US dollar and the remaining is 67 US dollar. Okay, I think it will be expired around the 9th December for me. Okay, you can just check with that. Otherwise, right, if you think like this is the free for us, maybe if you're running all the instance keep on running, so maybe once that the $100 reached and after that we cannot use the subscription. Okay, maybe you can just check that maybe how many you have how much you have consumed so far. Maybe if you have any uh, the unwanted resource, you can just clean up that one.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, yeah, so this one, right, so I have just created the so from that the skill pipe, right, so they have provided the two demonstration, and we will just see how to do that. So here, right, cat rg dot. Okay, so whatever we have seen, right, the same thing, the same the content is here. Okay, the local host and then the create rg resource group. So maybe if it is any resource group is there, I will just delete. uh, so currently we don't have any resource group. Okay, so how we have to run is like Ansible.
So where is this YAML file is?
Yeah, so here, right, so just I have run ls commands to list the files in the current directory, and here it is showing like the rg.yaml file. So this one I already created. So for example, right, you can just you can go to rg.yml. Okay, and here this is coming under the insert mode. For insert mode you can just press I, and for example I will just say like instead of resource group this one, maybe I will say like az400 demo. I will just edit it. Okay, and once you have edited, what you can do is like you have to give escape to come out of insert mode, and then you have to press colon WQ. So the W is for the writing, the saving the content, and the Q for the quitting the maybe this file actually. So you got it right. So I have just done like VI and then the file name, and it is open. And if you want to edit or something, you have to press enter for getting into the insert mode. So otherwise, it will be in the read only mode only. Okay, and once it is coming into insert mode, you can just make the changes whatever you want. And after that, I will just again press escape to come out of the the right mode, and then I will I will add like the colon WQ. This is for the saving the changes, and then the quitting the file. Okay, so just I came out of the file actually, because in the cloud, right, in the Linux we don't have a any kind of the code editor like the VS Code or Notepad, right? It won't be there in the inside the VM, maybe the Linux environment. So just that is why I'm just using the VA editor. So you got it right, or
Now, what is that VA editor is?
so the VA editor, right? So similar like in your so what is the code editor you are using in the Windows machine? So mostly we will be using the VS Code or Notepad or Notepad plus plus, right? So this is the Windows based application. Okay, but currently, right, I am into the cloud shell. This is the Linux environment. Okay, so if it is
Right.
the Windows, maybe the environment, I can expect the Notepad or the Notepad plus plus or VS Code, I can expect it. Okay, but since this is the Linux machine, so by default they will be having the VA editor. So VA editor, one of the code editor. That's it. Okay,
Okay.
but in your maybe in your Windows and all, right, so it's very easy, but in the VA editor we have to see, like for example, right, I want to edit the rg.yml file. Okay, so I just to enter like VA and then this file, so this one I need to be open now. Okay, and then I am just pressing enter. Okay, so currently it is in the read only mode. Okay, so for example, you want to edit something. Okay, in this scenario, right, I'm just trying to edit something. Okay, I'm just pressing some kind of characters. So I think by default I is pressed, that's why I'm not saving the changes. Again pressing I, location West US. Okay, so for example, yeah, once I have opened the file, right, I have to press I. Okay, after that, right, it will display like insert, which means like you can edit the file now. So earlier it was the read
Okay.
only, right? So maybe for example,
hmm
if you want to maybe I want to edit the resource group, the name of the thing, like okay, like I'm just saying like add rg. Okay, so I'm just changing. If you want to edit something, you have to be in the insert mode. Okay,
hmm
and then once you have completed the changes, right, so you have to come out from the insert mode. So for that one you will be pressing the escape. Okay, so currently, right, the insert is gone, the insert, the keyword is gone. Okay,
So then only colon W
yeah, after
Q,
that
right?
I have to provide the colon wq.
Okay.
Okay, this is come out. So currently, right, we have updated the rg.yml file. That's it. I
Okay.
think the similar like, right, if you want to maybe view the content, you can use the cat command also, but you cannot edit there. But you can just see the content of the file using the cat.
hmm
Okay, and also the similar like VA, there are many VA editors also. Maybe that we can install it, I guess, like the Nano editor. Uh, I don't know how to use this one, but this one also the popular one. So here, right? So this one also one of the editor, the Nano editor. Okay, so here also we can edit the content, maybe a resource. Okay, but here they are saying, right, write out where is redo. Yeah, I think for the exit, we need to press exit. Okay, uh,
How do you save it?
but I didn't work with the Nano. But here, right, the write out.
hmm
uh, Undo bracket, maybe there may be some other comments also. Maybe if there is some big file, right, I think the next we can do something. Okay, maybe here also maybe the same comment. Get help, I don't know the pipe. Okay, cap symbol. and then we need to press X for exit. Mm, so control plus X. Yeah, so here, right, save modified buffer. I think if you want to, like, if you want to say like yes means, I think it will save, right? So I will just
Hmm.
provide N so that it won't save anything. Yeah, so this one also similar like the VI editor. Okay, there are many editor. So in that the popular
Okay.
one is VI and Nano. Maybe in this case, right, mostly popularly will be used like the VI editor only. Okay, so now you got it right. So I will just
Hmm.
run the
Yeah.
command Ansible playbook and then rg.yml. Invalid Azure source location. Okay, I think I have provided West US, right? So that's not the valid location. Maybe we will see what is the valid one. East US is there. Mm, okay, I think we should not provide hyphen. I have provided hyphen, right? So again, opening in using VI. I'm pressing I for the insert mode.
Space DUS.
Yeah, I think we should not provide hyphen, I guess, and then WQ. Yeah, so now it is created. Yeah, so here you can see, right, the AZ400 demo and then West US. So this one it is created by the Ansible. Okay, so similar like we will see this one also. Like I have said, right, the task is the collection, so it will expect the maybe the one or more task. So mostly, right, the playbook will contain the many tasks, right? So you have to mention it in the array or collection based object only. Okay, so that is why here, like, this is the one task and this is the next task. So something like we are specifying. So this is how you have to mention in the YAML format. Like if it is the maybe the collection, so like it has to start with the hyphen and one space and then the name or something. So the name and all, right. So this is the maybe Ansible specific. Okay, so we have to read the documentation, but they are like the name and the Azure RM resource group. So everything like the predefined keyword. So we cannot change based on us, but those things and all like predefined only. So for example, the name and this is the module name, and under this module it will expect the two parameters only, the name and location. So if you are saying, if you are mentioning like resource group name, it can't read the values from the values for the resource group name. So yeah, it's everything like the we have to follow the schema almost, okay, but otherwise it won't work. Okay,
Mhm.
but only the thing, right, from the YAML's perspective, what we have to do, like what is the key value, how we can specify it, and maybe the indentation we need to be very careful on that. So for example, if I am providing only one space for the host alone, okay, so in this scenario the YAML file is become invalid, so it won't read the so it can't, maybe the Ansible it can't read the YAML file properly, so that it will throw error only. So that's why the indentation, so this is all at this level. And then the task means under the task we are having the many tasks, and so for each, right, it has to start with the hyphen and then one space, and this is how, yeah, we have to specify. Okay, but here the thing, right, for example they are just creating the Azure VM. Okay, and the first task is like the resource group, so similar like we have created the last time, right? uh, okay, I think, yeah, I think the last time, right, we have provided hyphen, and the next time we have provided space. I think we don't need to provide the space also. I think by default it will take uh, the region, I guess. Okay, the next one, right, the create virtual network. So we need to create the virtual network, then only our VM, right, it will get the private IP for the, maybe we need to assign some kind of IP to the VM, right? So for that way, for that is the reason we have to provide the virtual network, and then here they are providing the prefix as 10.00/16, and under that under the VNet they are grouping, they are segregating using multiple subnet, and this is the another subnet, and then they are creating the public IP address. For example, right, if you are creating the virtual network and then the subnet, so those things it will enable your VM to get the private IP. Okay, the private IP means within your VNet, um, you can access the virtual machine. Okay, but if you want to access your VNet from the outside, so at the time we need the public IP. And so maybe in your remote desktop connection, right, you can specify the public IP address, and then you can log into the system. Okay, and then here, like yeah, so they are just printing the maybe the output IP address, and then the dump public IP for VM which will be created. Okay, so they are just printing it, I guess. Okay, and then the network security group. Okay, so for example, your VM is let's say like your VM is currently running. Okay, maybe for example, if it is the VM machine, sorry, Windows machine, you will be connect through the RDP protocol. At the time you need to enable the 3389 port. Okay, and if it is the Linux machine, you have to enable the port for SSH. Okay, for the SSH is like the port 22 we need to be enabled. Okay, so that is the thing they are so this is something like firewall, like the network security group, right? So this is something like firewall in our maybe in our system or the on-premise setup, right? So there we will be configuring inside the firewall, we will be configure the inbound and outbound rule, right? So similar like in the cloud Azure, like they are saying like the uh, uh, like the network security group. Okay, and after that the virtual interface card. Okay, so with this virtual interface card we will be maybe specifying the bnet and then the public IP and then the security group, everything. Okay, but finally the virtual interface card will be appended to the virtual machine, so that it will be assigned all the public IP, private IP, everything. Maybe for example in your machine also, right, you will be having the NIC, the network interface card. So through that only you are accessing all the internet or the LAN, everything, right? So that is happening through the network interface card alone. Okay. So for example, each network interface card, you will be having the MAC address. Maybe for example, if you want to maintain some unique thing at the time, they will use the MAC address. So for example, right, if you are taking the public IP for the unique one, for example, you will be having the private IP, public IP. So with that, you cannot find that. But the for the machine, we will be having the only one network interface card, and then the one interface card, it will have the only one MAC address. Okay, so some scenario they will take. So just for an example I'm saying, okay, so here they are just creating the network interface card, and they are specifying all the virtual network, public IP, and then subnet, and then the firewall rules, everything. And then finally they will attach the network interface card to the VM. Okay, the for example the network interface, they are mentioning the my NIC. So this one they are just referring it, and automatically all the public IP, subnet, virtual network, so everything it will inherit when they are creating the VM. Okay, so for example this is the VM creation, like a resource group and name of the VM, and the VM size. Okay, so there are many size, right? Here the VM size, and then the admin username, and then the password something. Okay, and here they are specifying like the CentOS. Okay, so this one is the Linux distribution, one of the Linux distribution. So that is why we are enabling the port 22, so we can access using the SSH only. But if you are creating any Windows server or something, at the time you will be opening the port 3389, that is for the RDP, the remote desktop connection. Okay, so Amos, you any query on this? Amos, I'm not able to hear you if you're talking.
Yeah, maybe I'm having some internet issue, or
Okay,
I
okay,
don't
okay.
know,
Yeah. Okay, Amos. So you are good with.
breaking also.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So you are good with the one, right? Like the VM creation using the Ansible. So this one we will just running in the cloud shell now. Maybe for example the VNet, all the maybe uh, the subnet. So you understood, right? So why we are creating it for the VM? So for example the virtual machine means, so before creating the virtual machine, so all these sub resources we have to create it, like the resource group, virtual network, subnet, and then public IP, and network security group, and the network interface card. And after that only we will be creating the virtual machine. So similar like only for other resources also, the AKS cluster or the storage, right? So there may be some prerequisite, some resource. So once we have created that one, and after that only we will be creating it. Okay, but when you're creating from the portal, right, so by default they will take some kind of the default virtual network. Okay, by default they will specify all the things like public IP, everything. But if you want to, if you're scripting here, we want to mention it even if it is the default, so we have to provide a value here. Okay,
Where did you get this file from?
so the file from the same thing, like the Azure skill pipe, right? So here only.
Mhm.
Okay, but I'm just going through maybe what
Okay.
each one is actually. Maybe you're right. Maybe the AKS cluster or everything. Maybe we can get from the maybe the Google, or so they will be having the document, right? So from there we can just copy it.
The standard template file kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay. So for example, I'm just running. I will just create it. Uh, so here I will say like vi, and then vm dot yaml. Okay, so I will just paste the content here. Okay, so this is completed, and I'm just pressing escape, and then colon wq. Okay, now I'm just running vm dot yaml. But here almost, right, so maybe in the Terraform you see, right, maybe Terraform destroy means it will create all, it will destroy all the resources. But here we don't have any such commands, so we have to write separate YAML file to delete the VM something. But by default they don't have any commands such like that. So if you want to delete using the Ansible, we need to create some other document actually, maybe the Ansible module, right? For example, this is for the create VM. Okay, so they will be having something for the remove module. Okay, so at the time we need to use this one. Maybe we will be passing the VM name and then the resource group alone, sorry, the resource group name and then the location name, but after that it will delete the resource group. But similar with compared to the maybe the Terraform in here, right? So they don't have any that destroy functionality by default. Okay, but here the nature is different, and there the nature of the running everything is something different, but the end goal is the same. Okay, so
Okay.
here, yeah, so here the resource group created and the virtual group, virtual network, subnet, public IP address, and this is the public IP address for that one. Okay, maybe if we have, okay, I will just copy the IP. I don't know. I think for connecting SSH through SSH, right, we will be using the putty almost. Okay, this is the putty, and so this will enable the SSH connection from our Windows machine to the Linux server. Okay,
Mhm.
so what we have to do, like we will be just providing the host IP. So this is our host IP, right? The port is 22. Okay, and then load. I will just clicking on load. So here the username is something like Azure user.
Is the creation still going on or is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
done?
yeah. It is still going on. So here it is not connected because the VM is not there yet, right? So I think
Mhm.
the create VM is going on. Yeah, I think before that, yeah, maybe the putty. So this is the SSH client tool. So with that, you can connect the Linux server from your Windows machine. Okay, you just need to pass
Mhm.
the username, IP and IP or host name, and then the username and password. And upon the successful login, you can connect to the Linux machine. Okay, but here you won't be having any kind of UI thing, so we can just using the command line, that's it. We can just do all the command line like the ls command, and through the command prompt you can connect to the Linux server, but you cannot see the UI or something like when you're login to using the RDP, and after that you will be seeing the UI everything, right? So that thing we cannot see here.
Yeah, I haven't worked any time on Linux, so I have no idea.
Okay, okay. So, for example, this is the IP, right? So now it is created. Okay. Uh, I will just close this session. Instead of this one, I think we can create something new. Mm, Maybe I will say like Azure VM. Just I'm naming it like save. Okay, I'm just selecting the Azure VM and clicking on open. So here it is saying like the host key is not cached in the registry something. Okay, so I will just say like accept. Here I'm just saying like Azure user. Okay, and then it is asking the password. Here the password like password 0134. Okay, so now I'm logged into the our VM. Like this is
Mhm.
my VM something. The name is my VM, and I am logged in using the Azure user. Here you can run whatever the command like ls, or maybe if you want to create make directory, or maybe if you want to install some other uh, okay, so if you want to uh, install the patches something, so we will be using the yum. package manager something. So maybe yeah, similar like, right, maybe we will be installing the we will download the installer first, and after that we will run the installation. But here maybe everything we have to do in the command line, like the m package manager, they will do some commands. So for example, so here, right, so these are also some commands. Check update. So this is the sudo yum the curl, right? So maybe curl you hear of, like this is the HTTP client tool. Like if you want to do any kind of the web service call from the command line, right? So at the time we will be using the curl command. Okay, for example, if I want to install the curl module, I will be just going here, but here it is expecting the value. Yeah, so this is just updating the all the packages. I think by default, right, when you're creating it, maybe the basic things it will be there. But if you want to update your packages, you have to provide the yum update command. Okay, so maybe the next thing, right, I will just trying to install sudo yum install curl. Okay, I think it will take some time almost. Okay, but this is
Yeah.
around the 656 packages. Okay, but yeah, maybe I'm just what I'm trying to say, like, so for example, if you want to install any kind of packages something, right, so we have to provide even the Chrome or the Chromium browser, right? So I think the Chrome is the Windows version, the Chromium is the open source version for the Linux environment. Okay, so we have to provide
Mhm.
like sudo yum install Chromium, so that it will install the Chromium browser or something. Okay, and then the Python means sudo yum install and then Python, so that it will deploy the Python something. Okay, so this is what I am trying to say here, Amos. So you are good with that
Yeah.
one, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay, Amo. So even the next till Wednesday, I'm having the some class, Amo. So that we can just connect 1.5 hour. Okay, maybe
Okay.
that after that we will connect 2 hours as like before. Maybe the tomorrow, right? We will see the Docker and Kubernetes some overview. We will see that one. Okay.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Amos. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Good night.